Good morning and welcome to your Saturday morning garden show in the garden. I'm Stephen E. Pop and I'm here with
Joe Truscott.
Good
Hey,
morning,
everybody.
Joe.
Sun is up and rising. It was absolutely glorious this morning in the heavy, dense fog.
In the heavy, dense fog of Prunedale and Salinas on our way in.
Well, you know, the Buena Vista Hill was
they're
treacherous. But once I got to the beautiful Harvey West neighborhood of Santa Cruz, everything was sunny.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, and it's sunny outside the studio right now in the Harvey West neighborhood. Here at our studio, K-Squid Studio, Community Radio for the Monterey Bay. I want to send out a special thank you to all of our donors who helped us with our spring pledge break, and thanks to those in particular supporting this show in the garden.
Hooray.
There were several of you, and we truly, truly appreciate it, helping us make our goals. We do appreciate it.
And by the way, if you thought about making a donation and didn't quite get around to it, there's still plenty of time.
It's never too late.
Visit ksqd.org, follow the donate links, and we'll be happy to have your support.
We certainly will. Thank you again. Plants.
And I've always been attracted to something called giant species of sunflower.
Oh, yeah.
It's the most bang for your buck you're going to get.
Just stake it up. If it falls over and hits you in the head, it'll knock you out cold.
You don't like your neighbors? Well, plant a living fence.
So I want to, right now, Joe, before we get into the main topic of our discussion this morning, I want to start a little bit of a new feature. We have, for many weeks now, solicited our listeners to either send us an email or contact us via Facebook, either of us, with any ideas and topics for shows, but also with any gardening questions that you might have. And this week I got several. And so I'm going to start with a message I got from Steve in Monterey. Steve says that my lily of the Nile plants have not bloomed in several years. What should I do? Well, Steve, let me tell you, the Agapanthus orientalis, the lily of the Nile plant, is a plant that can be grown in a pot or in the ground, but there are two things that they really need. One is full sun. They need a lot of sun. I know I've had problems with mine in my garden because I have so much shade that I had to finally dig them up and move them to a sunnier location where they get at least 6 hours of direct sunlight a day. They just will not bloom in the shade, or if so, very, very sporadically. The other thing about Agapanthus, all species of Agapanthus, is that they are hungry beasts. They need to be fed on a regular schedule starting in April and probably going every 2 weeks until the fall in October. Now, if you have a problem, if the problem is that Steve's Agapanthus are in the shade or they're maybe root bound in a pot, which they can take for a long time, but if he moves them from the shade into the sun, you may still not get any blooms this year. It may be until next year, and that's certainly true if you divide your Agapanthus plants. But fertilizer and sun. And it's one of those plants that growing up on the San Francisco Peninsula, we always took for granted because it was always sort of like a freeway margin or street median planting because they're so drought tolerant. They are quite beautiful. And I can recall when I worked in Monterey, having tourists come up to me and say, "What is this?" From the East Coast generally, in colder climes. Yeah. "What is this gorgeous flower?" And I was like looking around, what flower? Lily of the Nile, yeah.
But they're also similar to iris, and they do get congested.
Yeah,
and so if if you haven't touched them in 10 years.
Oh,
or so,
no, by all means, yeah. And you can just get in there with a butcher knife and slice right through them. You're not going to hurt them.
Yeah, divide them all up and set them down. Wait till after their flowering season is over, and then just dig them up, separate them, pass them on to anybody who you meet. And it's a really terrific flower to grow. And be creative. Look around, because you're likely to find variations of it.
There are numerous.
Some are white, some are midnight blue.
That's the storm cloud is dark blue.
Yeah.
There's a variegated one, white with a touch of purple, and there are even variegated leaf ones, like the dwarf Tinkerbell is one of those. So, quite a few choices out there. Now, we have another question from Lori in Prunedale, and Lori says that I love my blue gum eucalyptus, despite what my neighbors think. It provides winter flowers for bees and hummingbirds, as well as nesting for many birds, including owls. But what can I plant beneath it that will survive? I've been told that nothing will grow under it. Well, that's a great question. And when we're talking about blue gum eucalyptus, the Eucalyptus globulus, there has long been the feeling that there are chemical components in the leaves of eucalyptus that inhibit the growth of other plants. Recently, research has shown that it's not so much that aspect as plants will be competing for water and nutrients underneath eucalyptus trees. And with respects to the blue gum eucalyptus, you're going to get a huge amount of biomass building up underneath that tree unless you keep it regularly raked out and hauled out. All of the peeling bark and falling leaves, etc., makes it very difficult for some plants to survive. However, that said, it is very interesting to note that there are quite a few plants that will grow underneath eucalyptus. And these are observations that have been made and recommended both by Sunset Western Garden, Huntington Botanical Gardens, San Marcos Growers, and through personal observation and experience. A lot of those plants are going to be New Zealand and Australian plants, natives that fit with eucalyptus. So many acacia species will grow there. Leptospermums, the tea trees, both levigatum and scorparium, the New Zealand and the Australian, vice versa. The correas, the Australian bells, will work. Banksias can thrive there, grevilleas. One of my favorites, Solia heterophylla, which is Australian creeping bluebells. It's a vining trailing plant that has blue, white, or pink flowers. The coast rosemaries, Wistringias, Pittosporum tobira, and Melaleuca species. Now, there's even California natives that I have growing under my eucalyptus at home. Quercus agrifolia, the coast live oak, California buckeye, Aesculus californica, several different Arctostaphylos species, manzanitas. Ceanothus thrissiflorus does really well. Rhamnus californica, California coffeeberry, rusovata, the sugar bush, Ribes sanguineum glutinosum, the winter flowering currant, and Heteromeles arbutifolia toyon tree. There are numerous other species, from Aptinia to bamboo to bougainvillea to echiums, the Pride of Madeira, different pelargoniums, on and on and on. So a little research, and you're going to find that there are lots and lots of possibilities for growing underneath the eucalyptus trees. Just keep the duff off of them.
And for all gardeners out there, walk your neighborhood. What's growing in your neighborhood? If there are similar situations, what's doing well? And pay attention.
Now, this last question comes from John in Salinas, and I'm going to throw this one to you, Joe, because this is your expertise.
I'm here. I'm ready.
Okay. Get ready. The pitch is coming.
I'm holding on to the counter.
John says, I have not been able to get my roses pruned this winter. I want to know if it's too late to prune them now, and if I do, what will happen? There are no buds showing now.
Well, John, here's my advice. I just happened to have 3 or 4 rose bushes that I never got around to pruning. And what you will find is one of the reasons to prune early in January and February is for sanitation. You want to get rid of those old leaves because they're carrying over all kinds of fungus spores. And if you can clean them all up in January, February, you're going to have nicer, cleaner foliage in the fall. So now, a little bit of pruning is going to be okay, but you should be pruning all year long. Again, if something is dead, if something is diseased, if something is misshaped, if something is partially broken but still clinging to life, prune it away. Get it gone so it will regenerate. The other thing, and this goes for all flowers now because I need to do it this weekend already, I have some blooms that have faded. So
deadheading.
The most of the modern roses that are growing, they really need to be pruned away. You need to get rid of spent flowers. Otherwise, they're going to go to seed. It's what its natural tendency is.
Then stop blooming.
Exactly. So cut them away, prune them down, and shape them in whatever way that you can. But you want to make sure that you keep them pruned and cleaned off. Now, what I did with the 2 that I had problems with already, they had black spot all over them. No, everything else in the garden is pristine.
Right.
Well, good. But these 3 were absolutely horrendous. They still had some of last year's leaves on them, and they were anyway. I pulled them off. I just pulled the leaves off and threw them away, and because there were enough new sprouts coming on, that as you clean all that stuff up, water them, feed them.
So if John goes ahead and prunes right now, will he still get blooms on his roses?
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay.
If they are hybrid teas, floribundas, the modern roses, definitely.
Just a little later, maybe, than would have happened.
I mean, these roses. I mean, I preach to people: if your roses after the first flush aren't bringing new flowers on, you should be feeding them. And if I kind of what do I want to say? I'm not totally organic. I found 1616 at the local Walmart, and I tell you, I have a fistful of that with lots of water before and after. You're going to get all kinds of blooms.
Yeah,
so don't worry about it.
The truth is, when you're using organic fertilizer, you have to have a soil that's going to be accepting of it with the microorganisms present and thriving to break down that fertilizer, making it available to the plant.
Right.
And especially if you're growing in a pot, I don't see any problem with using something like a 1515, 1616 from the garden center.
Yeah, just make sure you water, hydrate them well, because it will burn them, and a little bit is better than a whole lot.
Right.
So a little bit every other week or so, you'll have flowers all season long. Most of these roses hit the market because they are generous with their flowers. And
who wants one that blooms once? Well, there's a few varieties.
Yeah, well, not necessarily the one-time bloomers, but a lot of the hybrids may have a beautiful flower on them, but they're pretty stingy with their flowers.
Okay.
They just don't produce a lot of flowers.
Well, thank you, Joe.
Anytime.
And thank you, John and Lori and Steve, for your questions. If you have a question for the Garden Guys, feel free to contact us here at the station. Send us an email. What's the email here, Joe?
It is info at ksqd.org. info at ksqd.org.
Or you can find either one of us on Facebook. So send us a message.
You could spell our names. You can find us.
That's right. Okay. Well, our main topic of conversation today is going to be taking a little bit of a dive into the darker side of the plant world. You know, there's about, roughly speaking, 400,000 species of vascular flowering plants that are known in the world. And of those, it may not seem like a huge percentage, but 20% of those approximately will kill you if you're not careful with them. So that's about 40,000 plants out there that contain some component, some chemical component that can be harmful to humans and to livestock, pets, etc. Most of the time, these plants have these chemical components because they're using them as defenses or protectants against things that might harm them, animals that might browse or eat them, or other insects. And those chemicals can come in a broad range, but of compounds. Sometimes they can have more than one compound, but they're generally consisting of many different alkaloids, cardiac and cyanogenic glycosides, saponins, which are soapy, latexy things, acids, neurotoxins, and some of them have recognizable names like strychnine and digitoxin and choanine, solanine, scopolamine, hydrogen cyanide. So it's not just the plants that contain those chemical components, but there are those that contain allergens and things that cause serious dermatitis or itching or even temporary blindness if you should get latex from some of the euphorbia species in your eyes.
Yeah.
So these different compounds, they can be present in all parts of a plant. It could be in the leaves, the stems, the flowers, the seeds, the roots, some or just one or two. And interestingly, some plants, the level of toxicity will change with ripeness. So when it's green and not fully ripe, perhaps it's more or less poisonous than when it is colored up and fully ripe, etc. And what I was thinking we would do would be to talk about how some of these plants are very common. And with Mother's Day here around the corner, how many of the cut flowers, many that I've grown in my career, are actually containing some pretty serious toxins.
But before we go on to that, it dawned on me yesterday as I was driving around that the hemlock is in full bloom at the moment. It is not Queen Anne's lace. It is something
but it looks
that
very
looks similar to it.
Well, you jumped ahead on me there, Joe.
Oh, did I?
That's okay. I've got weeds coming up, but let's talk about it now since you brought it up. It's a great thing to discuss.
So
Queen Anne's lace, which is commonly, the common name for the wild carrot species. It's a plant that will grow. Docus carata is the botanical name for it. It's a plant that will grow quite tall, and it has these umbels of white flowers, beautiful white flowers. It's really very nice. Now, Docus carata itself, although the root is edible when it's young, it gets quite woody later on, and by the time the plant is fully mature, some people can have an allergic reaction when they touch the leaves of Docus carata. It's an itching dermatitis effect. Not everybody is affected. But when it comes to poison hemlock, Conium maculatum, there's a significant difference here. Now, this plant has invaded the United States from Europe and elsewhere. It can become a prolific weed, and it is extremely toxic. All parts of the plant are poisonous. The way you can distinguish it the easiest from Docus carata or wild parsley or parsnip is to look at the stems. The stems will have purple blotches and spots on them. It's very
Which one's got the spots?
The poison hemlock
has spots.
Poison hemlock has purple spots.
And white flowers, right?
Just like Queen Anne's lace, it looks very, very similar. The only difference is in Queen Anne's lace, there's that one little dot of red in the middle.
I was just going to say.
Where she pricked her finger while she, as the story goes.
Oh, it's,
But there's a whole thing behind that. But the other thing about Queen Anne's lace that's kind of cool is that in schools, if you're a teacher, you can do this. You can take a stem of Queen Anne's lace, the center umbel, and put it in dyed water, and it will absorb that water and change color of the flower from white to whatever color. Similar is what some carnations will do. So
exactly.
It's fun to see. But the thing about the hemlock is that if you're going to be removing, and I have to say, either I have the constitution of Rasputin or I am just very, very lucky, because I used to, when I first got to my property in Prunedale, it was covered in poison hemlock, and I used to pull it out my hand and hit it with a weed eater. Well, it takes very, very little of the saps in poison hemlock to become toxic. It's conaine, it's an alkaloid, and it can be toxic. And it's the cup of hemlock was what the Greeks used for execution, Socrates and his cup of hemlock and others. You don't want to get it in your mouth, only a tiny portion, and it can be absorbed through the skin. So wear gloves, wear eye protection, keep your mouth shut while you're pulling or cutting it. And it's important to know that the toxins, the alkaloids in poison hemlock, can remain active for up to 3 years.
Oh, great.
Even in the dried stems.
Yeah. So would you recommend you know what it looks like when it first comes up?
I do.
Because it does die back in the fall.
Yeah, and it goes to seed and spreads everywhere. Yeah. If you haven't cut it out.
Yeah. So if you can
see it coming up early, it's much easier to rogue out.
Yeah. And rogue out. What's that?
Rogue, remove. Yeah, get gone. Yeah. Sorry, grower term there.
Rogue out.
Rogue them out. Yeah, rogue them out.
All
right. Well, moving right along. There are also some houseplants that, before we get to the cut flowers, and of course the one that always comes up is good old Euphorbiaceae, Euphorbia polycherma, the poinsettia plant. And as far as I know, I have never heard or read of an account of death by poinsettia, other than the soul-crushing experience of those who grow them professionally.
Yeah, exactly. Breaking their back, carrying them out. Yes,
but it will cause irritation. It does have the latex and all of that. But far more dangerous is a very common houseplant called Dieffenbachia. It has the common name of being called dumb cane sometimes, and that's because it has, if you ingest this, it will paralyze your mouth, your tongue, your throat. It can swell your throat and stop you from breathing and kill you. It is the component in it is a really nasty component. It's these needle-shaped crystals called calcium oxalate, and these things are wicked, and they can be found in a number of different houseplants, including the caladium, the elephant ear or angel wings houseplant.
Those are poisonous? Caladiums are poisonous?
They are.
They're so pretty.
They are very pretty, and they have the same calcium oxalate and anthurium. Those waxy, bizarre-looking flamingo flower or tail flower.
Yeah.
Same deal there.
I didn't know that.
Another common houseplant, but is also grown in the garden, is the good old lily of the valley, Convallaria magellis. And these are beautiful little plants with these little white flowers, little bells, and
delicious
wonderful
fragrance.
Smell. They contain, all parts of the plant are poisonous, and they too contain cardiac glycosides. They will stop your heart cold.
Yeah, they use them a lot in weddings. So
I was just going to say they're in bridal all the time. They're in bridal.
Let's keep them the hell off the wedding cake.
Yeah, keep them off the cake and keep them off the bride, and It's one of those plants, okay? Now, moving on to cut flowers, one of the cut flowers I grew for years, and I didn't know about its toxic qualities. Is a plant commonly called monkshood, also called wolfsbane or aconite, aconitum. And these flowers, they're grown from kind of a knobby tuber like bulb, where the most of the poison is contained.
Lots in the English garden settings.
Yeah, well, the medieval monastery gardens. In fact, this was the basis of Umberto Eco's The Name of the Rose. It was the maniacal monk who didn't want the other monks reading jovial, happy things in the manuscripts. He made a potion out of aconite and spread it onto the pages, and they would lick their fingers as they turned the pages and were poisoned.
Wasn't he quoting that? And nowhere in the Bible does it say Jesus Christ ever laughed.
Yeah. I would, moving right along. So yeah, aconite is one of those high alkaloid containing things that it was used in ancient Greece to poison arrows. It was even used by the Nazis to poison bullets. And it's just it's a beautiful flower. It makes a great cut flower. Just keep it out of your mouth. Curiously enough, in the same monastery gardens, it was used medicinally in very low doses to help slow the heart rate and lower the blood pressure, which it will do very, very quickly if you use too much. So, as Dame Agatha Christie said, it's the dose that kills. So, we're just about to break time here, Joe. I think we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll jump through some more of these wonderfully toxic plants that can be found commonly in our gardens. So we'll be right back. We are talking about
love
in the garden.
Happy
here
Mother's
on
Day,
KSQD Santa Cruz.
We're talking about
all
the flowers that can kill you, Mom.
Well, hopefully not. Now, Joe, do you ever eat like edible flowers?
I do, and there are a couple of roses. Oh God, there he goes. A couple of roses petals. I usually, every time I get a new rose, I taste the petal because sometimes they're delicious, sometimes a little peppery, and they're very pretty in the stuff. But
I've never hit a poisonous rose before, though.
No. Yeah. No part of the rose is poisonous.
Good. Good.
In fact, they're
well. If you eat the hips, you have to kind of clean them out because there's that fuzzy stuff in there that can,
but it won't kill you.
Just choke you.
It's fiber. You want to put fiber in there?
Yeah, fiber.
That's right.
Fiber. Well, there are numerous different flowers that are edible. And there's even some like columbine, the Aquilacea species, that you can eat columbine flowers in small quantities. They're very sweet and very fragrant sometimes, but too many of them will make you sick, and eat any other part of the plant, and it's likely to make you very ill, if not kill you.
Oh,
so there are these things that go back and forth. Something like a food plant like asparagus, Asparagus officinalis, or even Asparagus densiflora, the Springer eyes, the foxtail fern asparagus. Those guys, when they're small, when they're young, there's no toxin in them, but they will all of the different asparagus species will eventually flower and set a little berry. And it starts out green, and when it turns red, those berries are toxic. 4 or 5 of them be all it would take to make you really sick or do you in. So, another flower that's often used as a cut flower is agrostema, Agrostema githago, the corn cockle. It's a weed in some parts of the country, and it's a common cut flower used as a filler plant, has beautiful pink or white flowers. But again, it's one of these things that contains saponines, and it's another one that has been used medicinally in folk medicine, but it only takes a little over 3 grams worth of seeds to be a fatal dose. So again, it's a common flower. Another one, delphinium. All of the delphiniums are poisonous, including larkspur, which is in the Delphinium consolida. Often used in Mother's Day bouquets and weddings, etc.
And as a field flower, doesn't it sicken cattle? And
it can, absolutely. particularly if they eat it in livestock. And that's the thing with a number of these plants is that even walking on euphorbia has burned the hooves of horses and cattle in the past, especially the snow on the mountain Kilimanjaro variety. One plant that I still to this day plant in my garden is castor bean, Ricinus communis. It was declared to be one of the most poisonous plants in the world. I actually grew it as a cut flower also. There are green-leaved and purple-leaved and red-leaved species. The flowers are these fuzzy ball-looking things that are really quite attractive. They can be in deep red, purple, white, pink. It's all of the parts of the plant contain a high concentration of ricin, which is very water-soluble. And remember in our pesticide discussion a few months ago, we talked about LD50, the lethal dose 50, that being the level or dose that will kill 50% of the test subject. Well, the lower the number, the more potent. Ricin and the castor bean plant has an LD50 of 22 milligrams to kilograms. So very, very toxic. In fact, and it's the seeds that really have the highest concentration, and they're very pretty, striped, beautiful seeds. So they become very attractive to children, and they see them as candy. And you have to be very careful. Now, fortunately, you have to break the seed open for it to be toxic. And if you were to swallow it whole and not digest it, hopefully it would pass right through you. But it only takes 3 seeds to kill a child, and between 5 and 8 seeds to kill an adult. So
the seeds form at the top of the plant?
They form inside those fuzzy, flowery balls that form. So you can keep the plants trimmed of the flower heads. There's a certain amount of dermatitis effect that can happen from that as well. So if you keep them trimmed, that's great. And an interesting factoid, of course, is that castor oil is made from castor bean seeds, Ricinus communis. It's just they are denatured in that process of extracting the oil. It's also a good companion plant to keep certain rodents, moles, and possibly even gophers out of the garden if you plant it as a perimeter plant, and it is reputed to ward off mosquitoes.
But it is essentially an annual, right?
It's an annual, yes.
I know we used to grow them back in Ohio because you got a whole lot of plant really quickly. And remember, the growing season is May to
whenever
September.
It starts freezing again.
And so the effect was quite large.
Some of the other garden plants that I have loved over the years, I grew up with oleander, Nerium oleander, and some of the sweetest, most fragrant of all the flowers you could ever hope. However, again, cardiac glycosides, it'll stop you cold. Children are the most affected.
And
usually.
That's the plant that grows all over the highways.
Freeway dividers, everywhere. Yeah, tough.
And they're fragrant?
Very, very sweetly fragrant. Yeah. Come in white, red, pink, yellow flowers. And they smell like candy to me. I grew up with them where I grew up in the peninsula, and it just the aroma was delicious. It was so you can see how you can be attracted. Oleander, Daphne odorata. That's another one where the sweet scent of the Daphne flower happening right now. It's the berries of Daphnia that are poisonous, especially when they're red and ripe. Angel's trumpet, Brugmansias. It's another one.
I knew
just
that was
lots of. Another one that became very popular in the landscaping trade about 15, 20 years ago, is a plant that's sometimes referred to as the peanut butter plant, Melianthus majoris, or the honey bush. And it has this very tropical-looking, feathery foliage, these crazy-looking flowers that look like giant bronze shrimp, almost like a justicia or something. And there's these very, very pronounced flowers. And if you rub the leaves, Well, it has a very strong scent of peanut butter. And again, this becomes attractive to children and even some. I would worry about dogs who are into peanut butter, right? So, very tough, beautiful plant for the garden. Just, don't ingest, don't touch. Rhododendrons and azaleas. It's another plant that all parts are considered toxic, and honey that is made from the pollen and nectar collected from rhododendrons can be poisonous.
I'll be darned.
So, mostly in the Mediterranean Isles, the Grecian Isles, that had become a problem at one point in history.
Yeah, I would think the bees wouldn't like it very much.
How about, I bet you grew up with this plant where you come from, Joe. How about heliotrope? Do you remember the heliotrope?
They're two different things.
Yes.
Because back in Ohio, we called something heliotrope because its umbel followed the sun as the day went on.
I see. Okay.
And it was only as we grew up that we started interest in plants, and it is actually valerian is what we were calling heliotrope.
Okay.
But so I didn't know what heliotrope was until I went to a Victorian garden, and it was labeled that and has a delicious vanilla fragrance to it.
Yes, and that is poisonous. So that's the one.
I'm glad I didn't eat it.
Some of the other...
and folks, we will, before the show's over, tell you what you can put on wedding cakes.
Sure.
Or birthday cakes. Or Mother's Day cakes.
Yeah. And remember, if you ever have an issue or you think that you've been poisoned, the National Poison Control number is 1-800-222-1222. Again, that's the Poison Control Hotline, 800-222-1222. Should you find yourself in a situation of potential plant poisoning. Please. So, how about some other weeds? Have you heard of a weed called giant hogweed?
No.
Okay, this has become a real problem. Herculeum, and boy, the species name is a mouthful. Mantagazanium. Two Z's there, folks. Giant hogweed originates from the Caucasus, and it was introduced into Britain as an ornamental plant. It looks, again, very much like the Queen Anne's lace. Very, very large. The problem with this plant is that it's extremely invasive, and it contains compounds that are considered phototoxic sap, meaning that they're phytophotodermatitis causing. That means if you get this on your skin and your skin is exposed to sunlight or UV light, it immediately begins to burn and blister. And these blisters can be so bad. This is just from casual contact with this plant. They can last for years. They can
tell us again what this plant is.
Giant hogweed.
Okay.
Herculeum. And it is now in the U.S., in northeastern and northwestern U.S. and southern Canada. It, like the poison hemlock, tends to like to grow on poor soil, sometimes damp soils. There's a water hemlock as well, which is truly wet soils. So and it grows to a height of like 7 to 8 feet. And so many people have gone in to try to remove it from their property, just like the poison hemlock, only to end up with these horrible, horrible burns, skin burns, dermatitis, blisters, etc.
Oh my God.
That can last for years.
Yeah.
And so that's one that I would say maybe an herbicide could be called for to deal with it first, and then a lot of personal protection before removing the rest of that. There's these other irritant plants. Of course, we haven't talked about poison oak and poison ivy, toxicodendron, but that's in the Rhus genus, and of course there are plenty of other plants in the Rhus genus, such as ovata, the sugar bush, or Rhus integrifolia, the lemonade berry, or triloba, that are great landscape shrubs, but poison oak is what grows here on the West Coast, of course, and many of those who are living here in the Santa Cruz Mountains are quite familiar with it. I'm familiar with it on my property as well. It turns a beautiful bright red in the fall, and once when I was working for the Parks Division over in Monterey, I had this greenbelt area, and I was walking down the trail, and there was this couple who from Asia, and where apparently they don't have this plant, and the man was photographing his wife sprawled out on these beautiful red leaves on the bankside and frolicking about.
Ouch.
And I just, and you know, well, I didn't want to think how their vacation was ruined.
Yeah, I did bring it up to an allergist I was speaking with, saying, you know, some people have told me they're just not allergic.
They think they're immune, or
they think they are.
Yeah.
Well, he said, in fact, about 10% of the population has no effect from it.
And I have known people who are in that category, and I've had it over every square inch of my body more than once. And now, for whatever reason, I seem to only get it on my hands and my wrists. But I'm still not going in there and roguing it out.
No, I mean, and especially at where it hits you, you know, your hands are calloused over,
Right.
and this is true for a lot of things. But if it inside of your arm,
Those
inside
damp
of your
spots
leg,
and
oh my God,
Lord,
your
yeah.
neck, oh, look out.
So the active component is an oil, ureashol, and they have come up with some really good treatments to help deactivate those oils, and they're available over the counter, and you can even spread that stuff on your clothing prior to working around poison oak and stay a little more protected. But let's remember, it's a plant that is eaten by a lot of different animals. The berries are eaten by birds, and the deer eat the plant. So there's all kinds of balances that we have to stay aware of. Now, does that mean I want it growing in my vegetable garden? No.
No.
So how about poisonous vegetables? What do you know about? Can you think of any that are
Rhubarb.
You got it, buddy.
And man,
First try.
I saw this thing on the internet, so it must be true.
Of course.
Where these guys take, that little mound of rhubarb in the wintertime.
The crown.
And they put a
cloak?
a sealed
Cover.
black cover on it, and it extends the rhubarb stems.
Sure.
Of course, it's not getting any sunlight, so
Right.
the
They're
stem comes up.
almost like a blanching cone or cover.
Yeah. So they pull it all off, and here are these beautiful rhubarb stems, which seems to be.
So here's the
what you
deal
want.
again. Remember, we talked about Dieffenbachia and those crystals, those calcium oxalate crystals. Same thing as in the leaves of rhubarb. So you never, ever want to eat the leaves. But I've been asked numerous times, hey, my rhubarb stalks, which is actually a vegetable, even though we consider it a fruit. Rhubarb is classified as a vegetable.
Sure.
My stems aren't red, they're green. Are they safe to eat? And the answer to that question is yes, they're perfectly safe to eat, and they have the same flavor as they do when they're red. The only thing you want to be careful is to make sure that you have removed the leaf and down at least a couple of inches to where you're keeping the stalk. There should be no leaf along the edge of the stalk because these crystals, especially in rhubarb, they'll get into the kidneys and the liver, and they can actually cause you to bleed out as they very painfully
And that's
destroy those organs.
usually not a good thing.
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
Generally
And if you don't like the color of the rhubarb that you have, throw in some strawberries, and it'll dye it all up, and it'll look so
There
pretty.
you go. Strawberry rhubarb pie.
And it just blends beautifully.
Now,
anyway.
Yeah, and, the other thing I get asked about rhubarb is, can I use the leaves in my compost? Absolutely. In fact, there are some people who even will go a step further. They will make a sort of a tea out of the leaves and use it as an insecticide on their roses and other plants. So Just a sideline. Now, the other one that we have to be careful of is the butter or lima bean. You don't want to eat those raw. They have to be cooked. And the Phaseolus vulgaris is the common or especially red kidney beans. Kidney beans contain toxic lectins. They're in the skins generally. And it's recommended that if you are soaking dry beans to cook later, that you dispose of that soaking water. And it's also it's known that if you cook your beans, your red kidney beans, to a temperature of 100 degrees centigrade or 212 Fahrenheit for 10 minutes, it will destroy those poisonous lectins. However, a lot of people are using these slow cooker pots and such that really only get up to about 80 centigrade or 176 degrees Fahrenheit. And when they cook at a temperature below the 212 point Fahrenheit, it can make those dried beans 5 times more toxic. So don't cook dried red kidney beans in a slow cooker. You have to get them up to that temperature of 212 for at least 10 minutes to destroy those wonderful lectins. Now, a lot of the fruit that we consume, apple, apricot, cherry, almonds, rum cherry, these are all the orchard plants whose fruits we love. Every last one of those, peach trees, contain varying levels of cyanogenic glycoside in their seeds and in their leaves and in their bark. And it's very common for livestock to be poisoned by eating the leaves of these trees. Now, if you swallow a few apple seeds or something like that, it's not going to kill you. In fact, I've eaten the roasted apricot pits before as a nice, tasty little treat, but you don't want to eat too many of them.
You know what apricot pits are made for or used for? Amaretto.
That's right. They're ground up into that beautiful Italian cookie.
That's that flavor.
Or the liqueur.
Yeah.
No, it's great stuff. Just in moderation.
Yeah.
Needing to be careful.
And okay, we've got a few minutes left,
Yes.
but I do want to talk about the flowers that you can eat and the flowers that you can put on things to decorate and
So my favorite is anything in the viola family. Heartsease, pansies, the Johnny Jump Ups, all of those guys. You mentioned rose petals before, and I've actually crystallized rose petals. I think they're great.
There are
violets.
lots of recipes for that. Violets are another one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which orchid this is, but they frequently use those long strands of they're sort of purplish. I can't describe the flower, but clearly orchid.
Well, I mean, the vanilla bean is an orchid. So, I mean, there's one of those examples of the culinary use even before the floral use. Right. And, one of the other flowers that has just finished blooming, tree flower, is the tulip tree or the magnolia, sugar magnolia, or the magnolia soulangeana. I think I'm saying that right. Yeah. The petals of those flowers are also delicious and edible.
What about some of the bulbs, like gladiolus?
Gladiolus is one that is safe. One that would not be safe would be any of the narcissus, any of the daffodils.
Oh, okay.
You would not want to consume the flowers from those. They are toxic.
Nasturtium, of course, is great
wonderful.
Flower.
Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, and we talked about nasturtium a while back and how it can become invasive over time, but basically speaking, it's just a tough plant that will also grow under eucalyptus for Lori there again. So.
But definitely edible. And anything like chamomile, that little daisy, I would think would be edible.
Sure, and there's an edible chrysanthemum as well that both the flower and the leaves can be eaten. Name's not coming into my head right now, but it's widely available as a seed to grow.
What about pelargoniums?
So pelargoniums, you could give them a try. They're not particularly flavorful one way or the other, in my opinion.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Even though they're called chocolate mint.
Well, that's in the leaf. There are pelargoniums were used for what was, and we're talking Pelargonium graveolens, the scented geraniums, were something that was called Liberty Tea around the period of the Revolution, our American War of Independence, after the Boston Tea Party, and we stopped drinking British tea. Liberty Tea was made from the leaves of scented geraniums, whether it was the lemon rose, and there's ginger, and there's mint, and chocolate mint, and lime, strawberry, tutti frutti goes on, and you can make a pretty pleasant tea out of that. And equally, the flowers, although not carrying quite the same level of those volatile oils to give you those scents, they're not going to hurt you. So they make for a nice decoration in a salad or on a cake.
Yeah, yeah.
And it is Mother's Day coming up, and we want to wish all the mothers out there a very happy day. And for those of you like myself who no longer have our mothers, remember that we're thinking of you, and we all had a mom.
And so much of what we know and what we love, especially on this program in gardening, we got from either our mother or father. And
absolutely. So it has been a pleasure once again to be here with you, Joe, and thank you to all of our listeners. This is KSQD Santa Cruz in the Garden, and we'll be back next week talking about bamboo.
Yes, bamboo.
So thanks again, and see you next week.
Happy gardening, everybody.
Happy gardening.